Good to see everybody. Thanks for joining. This is Steve from the Pinball Room. Welcome back to yet another fun adventure in the land of homebrew pinball. All right, so we've been making really good progress. If you watched the last video, went through, made a whole bunch of tweaks based on all the feedback we got of this show where people were playtesting it. Done some more playtesting here in my basement as well. Really liking the way things are shaping up. So, couple of small things I did since the last video that I didn't quite record. I was able to get the 3 stand-up targets back down here, kind of squoze them in. They're a little tight, but they're pretty good without having to cut a new white wood. So I was trying to avoid that if I could at all possibly do that. I think that's really about only the main thing since the last video. I've continued to iterate on these on the staircase mech and the supports. So if you remember before the staircase, we just had kind of like a skinny support coming here up in the back. And then we had a nice metal wire form here that would go around the horseshoe and provide kind of the inner ball guide for that horseshoe loop, right, going around the stairs. Well, if you recall in the last video, I said we had a lot of balls going sideways into the staircase, jumping in between. So I need to come up with something a little more like this is what we iterated on. Kind of this triangular piece that would be able to hold the staircase but then also cover the sides, okay? So we had a couple of those, and as I thought about it, I'm like, well, this worked pretty good, okay? I even kind of shaped this with like this groove here, so it would just be able to get itself nice and snug right up against these metal posts we have that are going to hold this horizontal protector that's going to kind of come out and cover the drop target to keep the balls from launching into the air. Well, if we have this whole thing going around the side, we don't need yet another metal ball guide. Like we can have the plastic be the ball guide, I realize. So toss out that metal. Iterate on this one more time. If this is the sole inner ball guide, then what if we go through and we shape it with a nice curve here on the back side? We mirror it, so we have 2 of these. And now look at that. We have a nice inner curve for the ball guide. They can go in here. And they get up nice and snug onto these posts. And ta-da, we don't need any other metal ball guide. This just comes in, holds itself in place right there. Screws down in the back. Okay, those will always be nice and snug and in place. And there you can kind of see it from behind. It's got that nice curve there behind for the ball to be able to go behind. Okay, and then we have our slots for our optos. So optos can just kind of like whoop, slide right down inside like this. That'll be for the lower step. And then this direction, whoop, this one will slide on down and be for this part of the horseshoe loop against this opto right here, okay? So we'll be able to track when the balls are going around. Then we've got 2 screw holes here on either side. We can do a couple little metal standoffs. We can put our piece of clear acrylic or PETG, as many of you have suggested to me, it's stronger, more durable. But a clear piece of plastic here that'll come across the top and keep balls from landing into the middle. And then from these posts here, we'll have a piece of either metal or maybe just thick acrylic or thick plastic PETG coming out here and kind of being that protecting shelf over the drop target to make sure that we don't get the air balls. Pretty slick, huh? I don't know. I'm pretty pleased with that. I think that could shape up pretty well. So now we have this nice, solid staircase assembly that kind of handles everything for us. Handles all the optos for the stairs and for the horseshoe loop and serves as like the inner ball guide. Pretty pleased. We've got recessed spaces here for the wiring to come down through, okay, and go down into our play field and the holes we have. So the wires will be all nice and tucked out of the way. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty pleased with this. I can't wait to try it out. So it fits, everything's in here good. The other part we need to go through and test now is just getting the staircase in, double checking to make sure these optos, get tripped by the ball, but they're not being hit by the stair steps like we had before. But I mean, we had that figured out. I adjusted the steps in Fusion. We should be good. If we're off, we're gonna be barely off, and I can fix that with another print. So, but yeah, feeling pretty good about this. If you notice, I've got those posts, I moved them further back behind the drop target, so my stand-ups are back here in front. I widened this gap just a little bit because these are now forward-facing brackets. They're going right alongside the drop target bracket down here. And so I had to widen this space just a little bit to make them fit without having to like get out the grinder and all that. But we still got plenty of room for the ball to go past. I've been testing this, and the horseshoe shot is still easy to make. It's not too tight. I think we're gonna be fine just there. One of the other things, I was talking with Anthony Van Winkle, one of the guys who's built several homebrew pinball machines and lots of rethemes, and been contributing quite a bit to the software, to the code for MPF, Mission Pinball Framework. One of the primary contributors here of late. And talking with him, trying to help me figure out the config that I'm going to need to make this actually work as like a ball lock device and with a stepper motor. And one of the main things for the stepper motor he's figured out, he's figured out how to get it to work with a little bit of custom code. We're going to be getting there. But one of the things he reminded me of is, in order for this really to work, I'm going to need what's called a homing switch. For those of you who have messed around with pinball machines before, you may be familiar with this concept, right? Homing switch basically just means when you have a mech of some sort that can like move to different positions, it's always good to have what's called a homing switch, which is just a switch that tells the machine when that mech is in its home position or like starting position. Because, you know, mechs can get hit by the ball, get moved around. Maybe something happens with one of the other switches, or there's some sort of a glitch in the code. There could be lots of reasons why that mech would maybe not do its normal, you know, movement or rotation, and could end up kind of like in this like in-between state, right? And for my stairs, it's very possible the stairs could go and a ball could hit it, or something to happen, or you just power off the machine and someone gets in here and they're cleaning and they mess around with the staircase and it gets, you know, in between steps. There's not like exactly at a level spot where it should be, right? Well, there's a switch, or what he's reminding me is I need a switch to be able to tell the machine when it's in its like perfect home starting, you know, reset position or not. I didn't have that anywhere in here. The optos are just for tracking the balls, right? What I need is something that kind of tells me as the steps are moving around, when they get to a spot where the bottom step is like level right here at the play field, that's where everything's nice and reset, right? So I need a switch underneath is what I'm thinking, that when the stairs moved out of position, it gets tripped to be able to tell the stepper motor, like, hey, we're in the right position. And that way when you like start up the game, it can go through and run a sequence to go through and say, hey, is that homing switch active? If not, let's activate the stepper motor and move it until it is. And that way we make sure that it, you know, gets to a good starting point. Okay. Probably maybe went a little too in depth on that, sorry, but I hope that makes sense. Long story short, I need to add a homing switch. And so I've been trying to figure out where and how I can do that. And what I've come up with is, if I do it underneath, as the stairs kind of come around, I have that bracket, right, that's holding the stepper motor in place, if you recall that I put down here. I think if I just go into Fusion 360 is what I'm planning, and kind of extend and add a little holder on one side that will hold this type of switch. This is a switch that's got kind of like a little ball bearing and a little rolling bead here on the end. And so this is used lots of times for different ball likes, like in the Simpsons Pinball Party. A ball can come over here and push it down and lock it, and then kind of roll off it when it gets released and continue through. So this little roller kind of helps prevent there being too much friction. Anyways, my thought is if I use one of these, and so as a stair step, if my knuckle is the step, right, the corner of the step, as the step comes around, it can like, boop, when it gets to the right spot, I can tell it, hey, I'm here, and then when it moves past, right, I don't have enough sides in my knuckle, but the edge of the step, maybe I'll use a step. There's an idea. The concept being that as the stairs move around, that they'll be able to come through, and when they're in the right position, it'll hit this switch, and then as it rotates past it, it won't hit it until it gets to the next increment, and so forth. Okay? So that's the idea here, the concept. I think it's pretty sound in theory. This can be a matter of how can I kind of extend that bracket that holds the stepper motor in place and add something to it to where it'll like, you know, hold this switch in place in the right position for where the stairs are. Because those homing switches have to be pretty precise. They get off just a little bit, and then they don't work very consistently. Any of you have the Stranger Things pinball machine? So the ramp that comes up and down in front of the Demogorgon, right? It works on the same principle. As the ramp comes down, there's a mechanism underneath that once the ramp gets to a certain spot, it hits a switch, hits one of these switches. It's like a limit switch. That's also used for homing, right? And if that's a little bit off, it'll stop short and leave a little gap between the flap and the play field. Goes too far. I've had to adjust that on mine out on location several times. Luckily, it hasn't been too bad. After I got it dialed in about the third time, it seems to have stayed there and it's been working really well. anyways, these can be tricky, I guess is all I'm saying, right? To get them in the right orientation, right position, to where they don't get triggered too early or too late. You don't want something that's going to like hit it and be triggering it for a long time, because then it's like where in that cycle really is the right homing position, right? You want it to kind of hit. That's why I'm trying to key it off of like the corner of the step. Right as the corner hits the right spot, it'll be good. And as it moves past, then it'll release it. Anyways, again, I'm going on too long talking about all this, but so that's what we're going to do next. We're going to go through and modify the bracket for holding the stepper motor, 3D print out a new piece, attach the switch into it, hook it up, and see if we can get in the right place. I will almost certainly have to iterate on this, 3 or 4 times till I get this in just the right spot. Hopefully not more than that, to where it's getting tripped consistently, right? But yeah, and guys, this is what's exciting. Getting this in, getting that homing switch in place for the stairs, and then just like all I have to do then is like reconnect my optos, reconnect back up some of these switches for my ramps, and like mechanically we're there. It's now like that should pretty much be it. I'm sure there might be a couple small tweaks along the way. A couple of you made some good points. I'm getting to the point now I'm pretty much done with like where things are going to be done mechanically and all that, assuming this all works out good with the staircase. But once we get there, then it's kind of like, great, you got the staircase. It looks just like a freaking escalator in a mall, Steve. It's all angular and boring and gray. Like, I'm getting to the point where I need to start thinking a little bit more about how to bring in the theme visually. There's a great suggestion by one of you. Was it Ryan? I forget. No, I think it was Paul. To maybe take the piece of plastic I put here and cover the ball, instead of just being just a plain, clear, rectangular piece of plastic. What if I maybe like integrate it with the theme of Led Zeppelin somehow, right? And maybe I can like shape it to kind of be like the upper neck of like a guitar, where you're like tightening the strings to adjust it, to tune it, or in the shape of like a treble clef, or maybe something that has to do with like the Icarus shape or of Led Zeppelin, or just working like the symbols of the band members, or lots of great ideas there. I'm not sure, but yeah, I need to have this be something more than just literally a boring like escalator staircase, right? If this is like the stairway to heaven, or the Misty Mountain, or whatever you want it to be, like I need to have this be covered with artwork and maybe adjust the shape, make it a little more artistic, do something to integrate it. So get to the point where I want to start thinking about that. But honestly, before we go down the path of like all the visuals and getting things beautiful, a lot of that's going to be integrated around how we lay out the inserts. And in order to really understand what all inserts I want and then figure out where to place them, like I know now for the primary shots, I can start putting in inserts for all these primary shots, right? I know where those shots are. But as far as for game modes and for multi-balls and for anything else special that we want to be keeping track of within the game, you got to figure all that out, which means I really need to start working and thinking a lot more heavily about my game modes and the goal of each of those. I haven't honestly given a whole lot of thought. I have some general ideas, but anyway, it's a whole nother video. So I'm just kind of stalling while my 3D printer is printing out the first version of this bracket for the homing switch. But yeah, we'll get the homing switch in place. We'll test it all out, make sure that is good, and then the next few videos are going to be a lot less about the playfield and a lot more about mapping out the game modes and trying to figure out all the objectives and all the rules. So we'll see how I do on that. I've never done rules before, so I will be very much interested in everyone's feedback on thoughts on what you think would actually be a fun mode and what would not. So yeah, anyway, stay tuned for all that. Okay, coming back with a 3D model, and we'll plug it in here and see what happens. All right, been a few days, but we're finally able to come down and catch up to the 3D print of this new bracket we have for the homing switch. This is like the 4th iteration. I think this one's gonna finally work. I hope so. The last one was just like 2 millimeters off. It's just a little too tight. So hopefully this one's right. It's been a little hard for me to get the measurements figured out because it's like down inside here, and without me like taking off all of these mechs, be able to get in and try to like measure with like my caliper and all that has been like next to impossible. So anyways, we're hoping this one will work. So let's fire it up and see. All right, I don't remember if I showed this before or not, but the way this works, I've got this bracket and I've got this switch here that has a little ball on the end, so the ball can kind of, something can roll past that switch and hit it. And then it's got just one of these normal little plastic connectors the switch snaps into, and then you can use it to like screw into the bottom of your play field. So I've just got it screwing into this bracket. Some screws I found laying around holding it into place. And the idea is, okay, the motor, remember, gets held in this bracket like this. This all gets put up underneath the play field. And then as the stairs come by, they will come through when they're in their homing position. They'll hit this switch at just the right spot. So anyway, let's put this in place and see if it works. You know, as I've been going through and designing this little bracket here and now expanding it to have an extra little arm to hold this homing switch, a couple of thoughts have come to mind. One, homing switches, I think I mentioned this in an earlier segment, but homing switches, you have to be pretty precise, right? Like you want to hit the switch at the right time, not too early, not too late. It needs to be able to be hit consistently, always at the same time. That in and of itself, to get that set up with parts that move, to do that, yeah, my hats go off to all the true mechanical engineers out there figuring all this stuff out for us on the actual machines that we're buying and playing day in, day out, right? Like, yeah, there's definitely some skill to trying to figure out to make this work every time repeatedly. Hopefully this one will do okay. And the other thing I've been thinking about also as I run through all this is, like, it's one thing to come up with a mech. Like, I came up with this cool staircase mech. Awesome, fun idea. I'm liking it. I think it's going to work. But the more I iterate on it, I have to keep making tweaks and keep making changes to the steps, to where the axle is being put, to the supports on the side, to how it holds optos, to this. And then the other thing I've been noticing as I've made these changes is it's more complicated now to put that entire mech together than it was before, like trying to get all the pieces in the right place. And so like the ability that those mechanical engineers have to go through and kind of think about like the steps that someone has to go through, right? The order of like, okay, here's a mech that totally built and installed is going to work. But now how do we also build it in a way in the right pieces with the right connections to where it can actually, you know, fit in the middle of all the other mechs that have their constraints, right, as far as how big they are and things that are overhanging or underhanging and wrapping around. So making it fit inside a space, but then also building it in a way that an assembly line worker can actually like put it together without having to like have crazy training, right? And be able to do it consistently, easily, and not be breaking other parts and bending things while they're putting them in place and all that. Like that's, I'm realizing mine's getting a little more tricky to do that. And so I'm just like, man, there's just lots of aspects to this that have to be figured out. And so, yes, pinball is fun and pinball is doable, but definitely won't say it's easy. Pinball's hard. It's like it takes a lot of trial and error to get things to really work. And we're not even trying to do it to the degree that they have to, right? That level of manufacturing precision they have, right? So it's like, yeah, hats off to all of them that are doing all that magic for us so we can actually enjoy all these games we love. So, all right, with that being said, I do get to try to do the fun part of trying to put my staircase back together and not break it. And having this arm here definitely makes it a little more tricky to get put in place the right way. It's just with like not bending the switch backwards, and like if I was to go through and try to put together like some sort of like instruction manual for like, you know, hey, so like, you know, somebody else could come along and assemble this thing. It's I don't know. It's getting a little bit tricky. Like I can do it because I've taken it apart 100 times now, right, as I've been building it back and forth. But like trying to tell somebody else really simply or like through like written instructions, do this and do that, do the other. Anyway, it's doable, but it's getting trickier. Like me trying to get this axle now in the stairs and then have that line up with the supports. There's, yeah, not the easiest thing in the world to do, is all I'm saying. That actually made it look way easier than it was the first few times I tried doing that. I guess practice is part of it too, right? All right. Oh, do we finally have it? Oh, yes, finally. It's hard to find an angle to where you can really see what's going on here, right? I've got like this little like peekaboo hole that I look through here through the wires so I can see it from this angle. How well can you see that? It's like, so the stairs, right? There you go, you can see the edge of the step now. It comes past it, the switch goes down, right? And then as the next stair rotates up, it starts to hit it, but it hasn't tripped the switch quite yet. See if you can listen for it. It's right there. You hear it going back and forth? Anyway, that's what we want because the home spot is right there. So now it's fully tripped, but it still is not so tight. Before I had this a little too short, and so when the stairs reached that point, the switch was fully compressed all the way against the plastic to where it was like gonna like break the switch if it kept trying to move past it. Now it's got enough give. Okay. I think that's gonna work. For my limited understanding of homing switches, I think that's what we need. We'll have to work with Anthony, who's helping me out on the code, and get this all configured correctly and make sure it really does work. But physically, I think we have things in the right place. The switch is being hit consistently by the edge of that step, not too early. It's not squishing. I'm going to break the switch, so it should be able to hold up, you know, by having the steps go around, 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 and not eventually wear out and break. I think we're good. I think we're good. Oh, I tell you guys, I've been stressed out beyond all belief over the last couple of weeks. Here it is now. The day of the recording of this day right now is July 7th. I went to the show June 3rd. It's been over a month, and I feel like I haven't hardly gotten anything done. Real life and real jobs and just family, everything else has just kind of been crashing down. Everything's fine, just busy. Life is just busy, and so I'm just like, oh. Feel like we got so close before the show, able to play it, and now I feel like things have just slowed down so much. And if you're thinking about doing your own, like, be ready, because this has happened. This is not the first time I felt this over the course. I've been doing this now for over a year, right? Almost like a year and a half since I started all these videos. I was really hoping to get it done in a year. We're bleeding past that. Hopefully it'll all be done here by this fall, in the next few months. We'll see. But man, you go through spurts, right? Either just you're in the zone, you can do it, or life gets in the way, or maybe mentally you're just not there. Sometimes you get burnt out from work or from other things going on, which is like you don't really have the mental capacity for it, and then come back and hit it fresh the next day. It's just, anyway, it can kind of be a roller coaster, up and down, right? All of you that have tried similar projects, I mean, it's no different than any other big DIY project you're doing, right? There's days you're all for it, and other days you just haven't touched it for a week, you realize, right? Anyways, okay, but that is huge. Okay, like I'm hoping now we have the final setup for a staircase mech. Man, I hope so. I feel like I've said that a number of times before and I've been wrong, but we'll see. We'll see. I think we're getting, if not final, super close. Like all the known issues have been taken care of, right? As far as balls going in from the side, we'll have plastic covering it so balls won't hit from the top. We've got a home switch now to be able to tell, to make sure if you're in the middle of playing or you mess around with it, the steps are kind of in between. We know we can move forward. Listening for it. Yep, until that switch gets tripped, till we know we're at the right spot. The bottom staircase is flat. We've been able to put in supports that will hold a roof to manage the crazy ricochets that happen from the ball. Like we have places for all the optos. The ball scraper is working good. As far as I'm aware, we've conquered all the known issues. Maybe new issues will come up when we do a lot more play testing, but for now, I think we're good on that. All right, so we're now into the wrap-up chapter of this video, right? So it's going to cover us for now. We got this all in. I've got to wire it up and connect it and get it into my config so this switch actually gets registered and we can make sure it's getting hit the right time. And then I've never coded hardly anything in a pinball machine, but I've definitely never coded a home switch before, so I'll have to get some help with some of the other guys, read through the docs and tutorials and figure out exactly how best to hook all that up so it works. Yeah, we got to get the stepper motor in with some basic configuration so we can get it at least to like turn one staircase when it hits the switch a certain amount, and then Anthony Van Winkle is going to jump in with a little bit of custom code, and he doesn't think it should be too difficult to extend MPF to be able to allow me to move the staircase the way I want, not just a certain amount forward and back, but kind of an infinite amount forward as I need it. anyway, so he's going to help me get that up and running. I've got to go through and get these drop targets configured to where they hold the ball kind of like a DC lock in TNA. So it'll hold the ball back there and know when to let go of it. If we can get these two like main lock mechanisms going. Yeah, and then we got to start mapping out just all the rest of the rules. I think I mentioned that earlier, right? What are the different modes? What's going on when? What shots do you need to make? Because then we got to start figuring out, okay, what are the inserts? Right, we've got obvious inserts for the main shots we need to put in, but then we have other inserts we'll need to put in to help signify mode completion and progress along the way, and things like that. So, okay, big huge milestone to get done with most of the physical stuff. Got to get it all in, assembled, and play tested some more before we do our next white wood. But we will definitely need to do another white wood that has all these final cuts that we've changed here. All right, we're getting close though. Thanks for coming along for the ride, guys. Thanks for all your support. For everybody who's been following along and watching this, I'm really surprised, like totally humbled how much this channel's grown. We just surpassed 2,000 subscribers today. So thank you to everyone who's followed along and decided to jump in and click that button and come along for the ride. I really appreciate it. Love all the comments. Been hearing some great stuff. Did I mention that I got some great feedback about the plastic? Instead of using acrylic, I need to use PETG. It's way more, I think I talked about that. It's gonna be way more flexible. I can, anyway, thank you, Tipo Flip, for showing me a video of how you do that, even being able to heat it up and like bend it and mold it. It's going to work great. So we'll go through and get some of that and replace these plastics as well. But yeah, thank you for everyone for coming along, for the comments, for all the support, all the awesome suggestions and ideas, because there's definitely a lot that I'm doing for the first time. So appreciate everybody who's chipping in with their experience. Hopefully everybody else is like taking notes from all the great ideas that have been shared, because I mean, they're not just for me. Everybody can use these ideas and suggestions that are being thrown out. So hope you're able to work that into your machines also. And yeah, if you haven't started a machine, get on it. It takes time. It's a lot of work, but man, it's a lot of fun. And there's so many great people out here. Like the amount of like positive comments and like lack of negative comments on my videos like floored me. Like, this ain't nothing like Pinside. No knock there, but man, like, thank you so much, everybody. It's just been, love the community that I've been able to jump in and be a part of. So happy to come along and share my experience with you guys, and love seeing what everybody else is doing also and the progress you guys are making. So keep sharing that also. All right, enough of me blabbing. Thanks, guys. We'll see you again, hopefully before too long. Hopefully next week we'll have another video with more progress. All right, thanks for watching. See ya.